Hello, everyone, and happy new week. And so excited to bring a brand new podcast episode. Plus, there's going to be a special announcement at the end of the slide. So, welcome to the podcast, Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. So, please like and subscribe to my podcast on Spotify for podcasters, Spotify, Google, Apple, and all the live streams that you listen to. And please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. And if you are a domestic violence survivor looking for support and empowerment, please join my free Facebook group, and that is Let's Break the Silence. And if you would like to subscribe to my newsletter for announcements, please go to my website, which is letsbreakthesilence.com. So welcome to the live broadcast, everyone. My name is Angeline Constantinou. I am the I'm your empowerment coach, life coach, podcaster for Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. And I help women who have suffered from domestic violence and empower them to step into their power and find their true purpose and calling in life. And this is so important these days. So today I'm going to be talking about the warning signs of abuse. Know what to look for, recognizing the warning signs of abuse, because, this is so important at a start of a new relationship. Because what happens is, I know this happened with me at the start of a new relationship that I had with my ex at that time. The warning signs were not there. And it is important to recognize what those warning signs are. And unfortunately, I didn't recognize it right away. And in fact, many abusive people appear like ideal partners in the early stages of a relationship. So, meaning that they don't show their true colors in the beginning. They, and it doesn't, the warning signs of abuse don't always appear overnight, and they may emerge and intensify as the relationship grows. So during my relationship at that time, which was I think it was 1986, there were no signs, no warning signs. And I've been asked this many times. In fact, I was a guest on a recent podcast called the Dear Katie podcast, and wonderful woman, her name is Katie Kustner. She interviewed me on her podcast last Sunday. It hasn't been released yet, but we really took a deep dive into my relationship and what that looked like before we got married. So, as some of you know, I used to be, I used to work, live and work in New York City. So we worked together in his business, and I worked in his advertising business, and I also managed interns. I was responsible for bringing all the sales in, and I brought in a lot of money to the company in New York City. And I worked New York City in five boroughs. So what happened was, I literally got lured into, working in his business, but I did bring in money and income. And she was so impressed by that. And I'll tell you why, because it showed that I was like a really, really strong woman. I mean, fast forward to today, I can stand on my own 2 feet and earn a lucrative income and work from home, and while, helping all these women. So she was impressed by the fact that I was able to, work from home. She was impressed that I was able to bring in sales and money to the company, but that didn't bring me happiness, especially later on. And what happened was that he started to show signs of an abusive behavior in a domestic violence. And sometimes it doesn't look the same. So one feature shared by most abusive relationships is that the abusive partner tries to establish or gain power and control through many different methods at different moments. So what happened was, in the beginning, we were like the Hollywood couple. We would be we would be, wining and dining in 5-star restaurants in New York City. And what happened was, unfortunately, years later, as some of he semi-retired, and he started to become more emotionally abusive to me. He heaped on a lot of emotional abuse because I was out there in corporate America making 6-figure income. I worked for different companies. I traveled to places that I've never been to. I would travel for conferences, and I brought in the money, and I was essentially the breadwinner of our marriage. And he didn't want to work anymore. All he wanted to do was have me stay home and do nothing, and that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a name for myself, and that's exactly what I did. So I'm so happy that I am bringing awareness to this, because a lot of women feel hopeless. They feel hopeless. And there's a lot of women who feel stuck, but guess what? You don't have to feel stuck. There's a solution. There is a solution. The first thing that we need to do, and I talk about this all the time in my previous podcasts, is to take ownership. Recognize it, take ownership. Like I said, I surrendered my pride and ego, and I drew a line in the sand. And in May of 2010, I drove to my attorney's office and I wrote out a check for $5,000. And in the last podcast episode, I did talk about that. So when I wrote that check for $5,000, I felt free. I said, all of a sudden, I felt liberated. And on top of that, going to court, filing for divorce, I actually made a trip to Saratoga Springs because this was my refuge. This was a place for me to go. A lot of, there was a lot of, peace, and, I felt very comfortable here. I felt I felt welcomed here in Saratoga Springs. And I'm proud to say that I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, condo apartment in Saratoga, brand new. So I made a life for myself. And what I want to do is, talk about these warning signs. I'm sorry. So what we need to do first is, so these are common signs of abusive behavior in a partner, which include, number one, telling you that you never do anything right. And this struck a chord with me because that's exactly what happened. Like, as we were working together in the business, he would tell me, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right, you're not doing this right. And that, that will tear you down. And it actually, over a long period of time, that tore me down. He said, and I actually pointed this out in the podcast interview with Katie Kushner. So, he would tear me down. He would say, I never do anything right, that you're not balancing the books correctly, which was not true, because later on I found out that he wrote balance transfer checks to buy mutual funds, and that went against my credit because I, unfortunately, the accounts were in both names, and including the credit card. So, that put me in a financial tailspin. And what happened was, all the money that we earned, it was all taken away from me. And in 2010, I was basically just, I was not working. I had, lost my corporate job. There was an opportunity for me to rank advance, to, advance in the company. And it just fell by the wayside because of all the problems that we were having. So I filed for divorce, and I just said to myself, I could do this on my own. So let's talk about the warning signs. So that's just recognize that. If they are telling you that you never do anything right, then that is a warning sign. So just be aware of it. It's a red flag. Another red flag is showing extreme jealousy of your friends or time spent away from them, which I talked about earlier, going away on business trips. I just, when I would go away on business trips, I would always have it, in the back of my mind that, he was, watching me, or he was trying to keep tabs on me. And I just was not feeling comfortable with that. But I realized later on that that was a red flag. So just be aware of it. Okay. If the abuser is showing extreme jealousy of your friends or time spent away from them, it's time to address that issue appropriately. Number three, preventing or discouraging you from spending time with others, particularly friends, family members, or peers. And in the last podcast episode that I was interviewed on, which will be released at a later date, this is exactly what happened to me. I was not allowed to visit my parents, and that was like half of my adult life. Um, and regarding friends, we were only allowed. I was only allowed to have mutual friends. So that put like a big dent, because I made a lot of friends outside of the house that were really very supportive. So that's another red flag. Insulting, demeaning, or shaming you, especially in front of other people. That also happened to me. Preventing you from making your own decisions, including about working or attending school. Now, here's another classic classic example of a red flag. So that particular one was very stressful for me because in the early years of marriage, we would make decisions together, but then later on, it was just his way or no other way. That's a red flag. So recognize that. Controlling finances in the household without discussion, such as taking your money or refusing to provide money for necessary expenses. As I talked about earlier, there was financial abuse, and he would write balance transfer checks against our credit, to buy mutual funds, and that was $100,000. So I found myself $100,000 in the hole, and that caused a lot of stress. And I addressed it, and he denied it. But we were, you know, that part was resolved later on. Okay, pressuring you to have sex or perform sexual acts you're not comfortable with. Okay, so that's another red flag. Okay, pressuring you to use drugs or alcohol. I never used drugs or alcohol, so that wasn't part of it. But there are a lot of relationships now where they are going to pressure you to use drugs or alcohol, and that is huge. So make sure you recognize that as a red flag. Another red flag is intimidating you through threatening looks or actions. That could be examples like spitting on the floor, spitting at you, giving you like a horrible look, just which happened to me, unfortunately, but I addressed it. Insulting your parenting or threatening to harm or take away your children or pets. So we did not have children, so that was never brought up in conversation. But I know a lot of women. I know that there are a lot of women in my Facebook group now. They're single moms, so or they're looking to get out of their abusive relationship. So it's important to recognize that. The next thing is intimidating you with weapons like guns, knives, bats, or mace. Okay, so I I was not threatened with a knife, but I did. I almost, my neck was almost broken, because when he threw me against the wall in December of 1999, it hit my forehead, and I fell backwards, and it was just a broken nose, but it could have been a lot worse. I could have had a broken neck, a spinal fracture, brain damage. And I had to have reconstructive nose surgery. So recognize those signs when they start to intimidate you, or they intimidate you, or they destroy your belongings or your home. And unfortunately, I have seen this happen with some people that I know. But you know what? There's a solution. There's a solution. So those are the red flags that I wanted to talk about today. So let me just repeat them again. Telling you that you never do anything right. Showing extreme jealousy of your friends or time spent away from them. Preventing or discouraging you from spending time with others, particularly friends, family members, or peers. Insulting, demeaning, or shaming you, especially in front of other people. Preventing you from making your own decisions. Controlling finances in the household. Pressuring you to have sex or perform sexual acts you're not comfortable with. Pressuring you to use drugs or alcohol. Intimidating you through threatening looks or actions. Insulting your parenting or threatening to harm or take away your children or pets. Intimidating you with weapons like guns, knives, bats, or mace. Destroying your belongings or your home. So if this, I'm sorry, if any of these resonate, or those are the red flags that you are recognizing right now, I would like you to comment red flags. Okay. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. There is hope. Okay. Because I know, with emotional abuse and all these red flags, these are constant put downs, and these red flags will, unfortunately, emotional abuse is worse than physical abuse, and it will tear you down in terms of self-esteem. And I know for myself, my self-esteem was way down. It was just way down, but I did something about it. And I invested in myself. I invested in personal development. I invested in coaches and mentors, and I found a way to come up with the money. I found a way to do it. So, and then, fast forward 1 year later, I was divorced and completely free from domestic violence. So, what I want to do at the end of the broadcast is this. I would love to know what your thoughts are on this live podcast episode. This will be released on Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. So please look for the live. There will be a special announcement there. Please go to my YouTube channel, which is Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. This will be live on my YouTube channel on Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, and I would love your thoughts in the comments. And let me know, your thoughts about these red flags. So I have a couple of announcements today to make. Okay. So the first thing is that I am going to be launching very soon a brand new domestic violence empowered healing blueprint. And this is going to be a 4-day challenge, which will be broadcast live in my private Facebook group. And actually, we came up with a new name. So I actually have to change this Facebook group name. We came up with a brand new name, and, which I'm super excited about. I invested into a business coach, and we are putting together the program. So please be on the lookout for the announcement. The announcement will be on my podcast probably within the next couple of weeks. Okay. So, I'm really excited about it. And it's all about healing together, thriving forever for domestic violence survivors. And we are focused on, we're putting together the domestic violence empowered healing blueprint. This is going to be, this is going to be amazing because we are going to be, focused on healing and support within the community. And we are focused on empowerment and growth. And, my private Facebook group is all about healing and empowerment, and it's giving domestic violence survivors hope, and we're giving them the tools so they can move into ownership of their lives. And not only that, you know moving into the life that they truly deserve to live, because guess what, no one deserves to live an unfulfilled life. And I've spoken to other domestic violence survivors who are now authors and speakers. So they've overcome, and they've moved into their true purpose and power in life. So that's what I'm going to be teaching you. Okay. So please be on the lookout for that announcement. And I'm going to end the live right now. So please, if you would like to go to my website, which is letsbreakthesilence.com, you can find all my social media channels there, my Facebook, my Instagram, and my YouTube channel. And I support women who have experienced domestic violence, guiding them towards healing and empowering them to reclaim their inner strength and discover their authentic path in life. And I am dedicated to helping survivors of domestic violence. I empower women to overcome their past, tap into their innate power, and ignite their true passion, guiding them towards a life of purpose and fulfillment, because that is the goal. The goal is to help domestic violence survivors, guide them towards a life of purpose, help them live a life of purpose and fulfillment, because we deserve to live a long life. Okay. So this podcast episode will be released on Wednesday morning. So please be on the lookout for it. And please like and subscribe to my podcast on Spotify for podcasters, Spotify, Google, Apple, and all the live streams. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you soon.